Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for all of those who have passed away in our community. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Gahan?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, Tax Assessor's Report for hearing date to be held May 30, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3B, minutes of the regular meeting of the members of the Scranton Housing Authority held April 2, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3C, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held April 18, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3D, minutes of the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held April 18, 2018.
Are there any comments? Received and filed.
3E, minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held April 18, 2018.
Any comments? Received and filed.
3F, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held April 18, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3G, agenda for the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held May 16, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3H, agenda for the City Planning Commission meeting to be held May 23, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have announcements at this time?
Yes, I have one. A couple weeks ago, I announced that the Lackawanna County Land Bank was going to be holding town hall meetings to go over their Blight to Bright program. The first meeting was Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018 at 6 p.m. at Goodwill at North, which is the 1500 block of North Main Avenue in Scranton. They've also added 3 additional meetings. One will be Monday, June 4th at 6 p.m. at PNC Field. The other is Thursday, June 7th at 6 p.m. at the Anthracite Center in Carbondale. And then Monday, June 11th at 6 p.m. at the 911 Center in Jessup. And that's all I have.
Anyone else? City Hall will be closed next Monday, May 28th for Memorial Day. DPW will be off in observance of the holiday. Refuse and red recycling will be one day behind next week. Council's next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on June 4th. And also want to wish congratulations to University of Scranton students who will graduate this upcoming weekend.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Our first speaker is Gerard Hetman.
Good evening, Council. Gerard Hetman from the Lackawanna County Commissioner's Office. To begin this evening, the 6th Annual Lackawanna County Job Fair will take place on Thursday, May 24th, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at PNC Field. As of today, we have 69 employers from across northeastern Pennsylvania registered to attend, representing a variety of different career fields. Each employer will have full-time, part-time, seasonal, and internship positions available according to their available openings. We encourage everyone to come out. In recent years, we've seen more of a trend towards younger job seekers, particularly high school and college students looking for summer employment or part-time work. But again, we ask every employer present to bring all of their available jobs. So there's lots of different positions available for anyone and everyone. So please join us. Free parking, and again, we have 69 today. We may have a few more by the time of the event. So please come out if you're looking for any type of employment. Second, gypsy moth spraying is now ongoing around Lackawanna County. This is a cooperative effort between the Lackawanna County Parks and Recreation Department and the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Bureau of Forestry. Spray dates depend on foliage, caterpillar development, as well as weather and wind conditions on the day of the scheduled spraying. The spray is known as Bacillus thuringiensis, hope I got that right, which affects only leaf-eating caterpillars. This has not been shown to be harmful to humans, pets, or livestock, but the DCNR recommends that you remain under cover when spraying takes place, and if you have any spray that gets on yourself, wash any affected areas with soap and water if you're exposed to the spray. Third was the Blight to Bright public meetings. Thank you to Mr. Donahue for sharing that information. The County Land Bank is pleased to partner with NeighborWorks of Northeastern Pennsylvania. I'm sure you guys know NeighborWorks well. They're a creative bunch, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can do with the land bank and with lots of input from the community. Todd Posley is the main contact for that. He can be reached at 570-558-2490 with any questions. And we're excited to see that series happen. We think it's a great opportunity to do something county-wide that would, of course, benefit many properties and neighborhoods in the city. So we encourage your participation and cooperation. Also, the Lackawanna County Parks and Recreation Department is holding their youth tennis clinics and youth soccer clinics this summer. They are both now open for registration. We mention those because those tend to be the two most popular programs for children, adolescents, and teenagers in terms of total enrollment out of our summer program series in the parks. They're held at multiple locations around the county. They're for boys and girls, ages 5 to 14 for soccer, and ages 8 through 16 for tennis. For the locations and to register, call the Parks and Recreation Office at 570-963-6764. Also, the Lackawanna County Park and Recreation Family Fun Day Series will take place at each of the 4 county parks this summer. They take place from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the following dates and locations. June 23rd at McDade Park, that's combined with our bike safety fair, and also July 14th at Maroy Sarnowski Park, July 21st at Covington Park, and August 4th at Aylesworth Park. And we'll also have our Senior Fun Day, which some folks actually asked me about on the way in here. That's June 16th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at McDade Park. We'll have games, music, giveaways, and free tours of the Lackawanna County Coal Mine Tour for all seniors in attendance. Last but not least, I would just say thank you to everyone who came out for the Armed Forces Parade. It's been a pleasure the last couple of years to serve on the planning committee for that event, and even with the rain, we still had a really good turnout, I think. A lot of participants. I don't think anyone, or maybe 1 or 2 planned participants didn't show up, but we had a really good run, and thanks to everyone that came out and supported the military and veterans that day. It was a really good time. So thank you, folks.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Washington, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name because I could barely read it. I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Washington Pesantes. I'm a taxpayer in this town. I'm a small investor in this place from 2007. So I have a problem with a property that has been condemned on 7/27/17 of last year. This was posted in my door. The grass is too high. So I came to cut the grass. Mr. Jack Liptai told me that I have 24 hours. I came and cut the grass, and at the next day, my neighbor who watches my house said, there is an orange sticker at your door. Then I said, why? I cut the grass. What's wrong with them? So she said, the house is condemned. So I'm going through this since last year, back and forth with the people in the 4th floor, the license and inspections. I've been talking to Mr. Hinton and Mr. Tom Oletsky. But seems like maybe because I'm Hispanic or my English is not perfect, or I don't know. I don't receive any phone calls from them. I leave messages. They said, no problem, we're going to fix this. You need to get an inspection. And my issue was I had done a lot of work in this property. I had hired contractors from the town, plumbers, electricians, who did a lot of work. And we bought this property, me and my brother. We work in the house. We changed the windows. We got the permits from the building department. We got a registration certification, and seemed like nothing convinced them that the property is not condemned. They tell me that the property was condemned before I purchased, back in 2010. I checked the public records. I made a complaint to the Commonwealth Title Insurance. They stated that in the public records, there is nothing in the public records of the date of the policy. And I bought the property from my brother again in 2014 because he didn't want to continue because we wasn't making money. We had a lot of people who we had to evict. We evict like 3 times or 4 times in the house. Really, I'm just trying to save the value of the house, which stands, before it was condemned, stands at $45,000. Now that it's condemned, people wouldn't pay even $10,000 for that. So I'm really asking you if you can mediate with Mr. Hinton or Mr. Tomoleski that they, I never was late with the taxes, never was late, I never had a fines. And suddenly, recently, I start having a lot of fines, which I pay them. They fine me $800 in the house because I was trying to fix something. I was trying to go and take care of the yard and cut the grass, another fine, because the neighbor complained. And I'm like, why all these fines? Why we cannot have a conversation and we can talk to each other and look all the certificates, all the papers that you give me. And after 10 years of ownership and dealing with all these evictions and these tenants, I never make any money in the property. I'm back and forth from New Jersey, 2 hours and a half, 3 hours coming here. And I have 2 kids and a wife who I'm the only provider for them. So I feel like when I came to this country, I saw the Constitution, and we have the right to pursue for happiness, the right for our property. But looks like all the rights that the Constitution talks about, nobody cares about it, or nobody wants to listen what I have to say. And so I'm really disappointed after all these years that I came here to fix properties, that it was almost at the verge of collapse, and invest all my time neglecting my kids when they were growing up, neglecting all these things. And really, I have no help from the licensing department.
Can you leave your name and contact information so we can look into this?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident and taxpayer. Another very light agenda today. The 4 items, 2 pertain to Mr. Bolzoni, and which brings me to Mr. Bolzoni. I reread section 6-6 of the city code, and it's clear that the mayor has the right and the authority to request a waiver for any employee if he feels that's in the best interest of the city, that he needs that employee, and that employee is not yet residing in the city. And I also read the resolution, and I was a little amused. It says, due to various factors as noted in the memorandum to Mayor Courtwright, Mr. Bolzoni is formalizing his request that a waiver under the procedures of section 6-6 be granted at this time. So I was curious to see what was in the memorandum, and this is how it reads. This is written by Mr. Bolzoni. Please be advised that I hereby formalize my request for a residency waiver under the procedures of section 6-6 of the General Code of the City of Scranton. Thank you again for your consideration. I look forward to continuing my efforts to assist your administration to the best of my ability for as long as I retain this position. So it doesn't really explain any factors why he's requesting the waiver. And I do not like double standards. If other employees have to live in the city, everyone should. However, as I said, Mr. Courtwright has the right, if it's in the best interest of the city, to request a waiver, and he seeks your consent. My only question is this. Let's not pretend that Mr. Bolzoni is going to actively be looking for a house in Scranton or an apartment. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to continue to live in Newton Township, and that's between him, you, the mayor, and the citizens. But let's not have this fiction that we had in the first 4 years that he was trying to find a place to live, because I don't really think he was. So if he's not going to be looking for a place to live in Scranton, let's just say so. The mayor wants him waived for the residency requirement, and that's the end of the matter. But I will ask if you could tell me during fifth order in motions, is he going to continue to pay wage tax at least? If he's not going to be paying property tax, maybe he can pay the wage tax. Also, you see I'm wearing my Swinging on Vine t-shirt for this Friday night, 5 to 8 p.m. You all have your flyers that I gave you last week. I remind you that this is an adults-only event, 21 and over, because there will be alcohol. There will be wine, there will be beer, there will be margaritas. The cost is $20 in advance. You can get tickets at any of the libraries, the Albright, the Nancy K. Holmes Library in Greenridge, or Library Express in the mall. It's $25 at the door. A lot of local food, all you can eat. There will be so many desserts inside the library on the first floor that we will have paramedics in case you go into a sugar coma. But for $20, $25 at the door, you'll get your money's worth. And Wayne, you and I can low crawl home because we don't have to drive.
That's right,
That's
Joan.
right.
That's right.
And there'll be live music by Picture Perfect and the Raging Hormones, whoever they are. I know you're not going to meet next week because of Memorial Day. The week after that will be our next book sale in front of the gym at the mall, second floor. You all have your flyers. I expect to see you there. We sell books, DVDs, CDs, audiobooks for $1 or $2 a piece. And now that summer's coming upon us, I don't want anybody coming up saying there's nothing for our children to do. This is Summer Quest at the library. Things that you can do from the Children's Library and the Scranton Cultural Center, Lackawanna Historical Society, Everhart, the Electric City Trolley Museum, Anthracite Heritage Museum, and Steamtown National Historical Site. All events for children. These just runs through like the 2nd of August. There'll be more throughout the summer. Wonderful things for children to do with their families. And I don't think they charge anything. I don't see anything charged. So I'll give you each one. You know, more things for children to do. And with that, I will wish you a happy and healthy and safe Memorial Day weekend, and I'll see you Friday night. And Wayne, you have no excuse not to show.
Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. You know, Mr. Bolzoni is probably a decent man, but I don't think this waiver should be granted, and I don't really care how he became employed here. I think this issue is still before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania the last time the council gave him a waiver, and that hasn't been decided yet. So, you know, we can all dance around this, well, we can't talk about it because it's in court, because I intend to go down to the Court of Common Pleas and look up some things next Tuesday on my day off. But I think it's very important for the residents in this city to realize that Mr. Bolzoni is not going to pay any city tax, any school tax, any sewer bills, any garbage fees, and he's not going to take the punishing financial burden that the residents of this city are enduring. And I just think it's really terrible to live in a city where an elected government can't form a government on its own that can conduct the city's business. Now, you know, I had an opportunity to get here a couple minutes early. I saw some of the presentation next door about spending $16,000 for the city to hire a company to do something the city should be able to do on its own. I mean, how long can this silliness continue? Think about it. I mean, I come here most weeks. And to be honest with you, I don't know, it's what, about 27 years we've been in distress? The city's in worse shape now than I ever remember it being. And the decline is steep. Okay, giving money across the street to Lackawanna College for Adams Plaza, giving away the Southside Sports Complex, just ridiculous, silly things. The city's budget needs to be cut by at least 30%. It needs something called leadership. And suits won't give you that. Okay, you have to have the ability to think, be independent, and make hard decisions. And we don't have a government that can do that. What we have is a government that hides in the back room, won't come out and say who seconded the motion to stop recording the public meetings that the citizens participate in. Not one council member would say a peep about that, but yet they did it. Okay, is that really a government that represents the people that reside there? My personal opinion, no, I don't think so. Okay? Hiring Mr. Belzoni to come in here as a business administrator, we haven't even seen what's going to happen in court. You know, before I make any kind of judgment, I want to read exactly what's been filed here in the court and how they're proceeding before I come up with my own opinion. And I'm only a truck driver, okay? But I've been to both sides of the court, and I've done well. Okay? And I just think that more people need to pick up that law book, learn how to read it, and try to use it. Because the laws don't belong to lawyers, and they don't belong to the government. They belong to all the people. The only problem is we have a terrible government. We see what's taking place with the Scranton School District and how a mechanic allegedly got health care benefits. But really what needs to happen there is not go after the mechanic, but go after the school board itself, because they were running that board. And they need to go to jail. And it needs to happen soon. And the people that need to be punished need to be brought forward by the mechanisms of government and stand before a court and be judged. There's only one problem in this country. We've got Democrats and Republicans who are politicians running everything. And the poor people like in Scranton, they don't even pick their head up. They have no faith in their government. That's why they're not here most of the time. Well, almost never. They have no faith in you. They feel powerless. They don't realize the power they hold because they've never used it. Maybe they should learn how.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marge Kravitz.
Marge Kravitz, taxpayer. Now that Belzoni is the business administrator and lives in Clark Summit, the city resident clause states that a city employee has to live in Scranton in order to work in Scranton. Is City Council going to abide by this for Mr. Belzoni? He had a lot of time to sell his house in Clark Summit before, and he didn't. Some say his house in Clark Summit was overpriced and nobody wanted to buy it. If you do vote for this, then you are betraying the citizens who you are supposed to represent and the other city employees and the rules of Scranton. Now that he's back, will council enforce this law? Mr. Perry, are you going to extend this?
Well, the vote hasn't been up yet, but I'm on the record of last time voting for the extension of Mr. Belzoni.
Oh, you are?
I voted for it last time, yes.
And
in my opinion, Mr. Belzoni's been the best business administrator that I've seen in the city of Scranton.
Now, do you think it's fair for the other employees in the city?
The mayor has discretion to appoint anybody he wishes, and then he also has the waiver that has to be approved by the city. And in my opinion, Dave meets the waiver.
Don't forget, you're up for election.
If I run.
Okay, Mr. Donahue.
I would remind the speaker to direct their comments to the chair. If council members want to reply to an individual comment from a speaker, they can, but this is not time to poll the council members.
Okay, Mr. Donahue.
Again, if he wants to
will
reply,
you answer the question?
I'll address it when it comes up.
Or you won't answer me?
I'm going to address it when it comes up.
Okay, Mr. Rogan, how about you? Are you willing to extend?
I'm going to address it when the vote comes up.
Okay, Mr. Rogan, when you were running for city council, you went to my friend's house, and she asked you about Mr. Bolzoni, and you told her his house is so high that nobody will buy it. That's what you told her.
And your point?
My point is, he's not going to sell the house. He's going to live in Clark Summit and not pay taxes here.
There's no legislation regarding him selling his home. This vote is on the waiver. It has nothing to do with him selling his home.
Well, yes.
And his home didn't sell last time because, in my opinion, it was priced too high.
Right. Okay, Mr. Gahan, how about you?
I'm not going to vote for it. I didn't vote for it the first time. I will say that Mr. Bolzoni is a good business administrator. I think he's done an admirable job. But I think this is about a question of fairness.
Right.
If we're going to invest in Mr. Bolzoni and pay him $90,000, then I believe that he should invest in the city. And I'll expand on that more in motions tonight.
Mr. Evans?
I'll be addressing that in fifth order tonight. So I will answer your question then.
Okay, you're betraying the city if you vote yes for this. Does Bolzoni pay garbage tax in the city of Scranton?
He doesn't live in the city, so no.
I know. But we do. We have to pay, and he's working in the city of Scranton. He's getting paid $90,000, you said? And he doesn't pay no taxes in the city? It's not fair for the people who have to abide by these rules. And if you do extend this waiver, you're betraying the city of Scranton. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Les Spindler.
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner, taxpayer. I wish when people came up here they would do their homework. Last time this issue came up, I talked about this. A precedent's been set already. Under the Doherty administration, George Parker lived in Moscow and was allowed to work in the city. So when people come here and complain about Mr. Bolzoni, they should know what they're talking about. A precedent's been set, and that's all there is to it. Where were they when George Parker was working for the city? I know I was here, but these other people are complaining we're here. Next thing, last week the street sweeper was supposed to be in Tripp Park. It wasn't there, not one day. Does anybody know where it was? It was supposed to be there from the 14th to the 18th. It wasn't there one day.
We could check on that. My guess is partially because of the weather.
Well, there were a couple of days that were dry.
Yeah, there were a couple of days that it could have
Even the
been
day of the storm. It didn't rain until about 3 in the afternoon. And then I think it was Thursday or Friday was another dry day.
Mrs. Reed, if we can we send a memo to the DPW asking that Tripp Park is taken care of?
Okay, last year I brought this up, and there's another problem. Down by the ball fields, on Dorothy Street, a hole opened up. It was fixed last year. Now on the other side of the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the curb, another hole opened up. And DPW is aware of it, because they've had wooden horses there for 2 or 3 months now, but nothing has been done. I think that's a sewer authority issue, because like I said, last year there was a storm drain. I'm afraid one of these days that the sidewalk is going to collapse. And I think there's an issue underneath there somewhere. And somebody stuck a pet carrier in the hole and an orange cone. But like I said, there's DPW horses there for about 2 or 3 months. But like I said, nothing's being done. That hole keeps getting bigger. Okay, I was glad to see last week in the paper where the sewer authority is going after Jim Mulligan for the $87,000 he received while he was supposedly working for the sewer authority. Mr. Bolus was asking council to look into that. And obviously, you guys didn't do it, but I'm glad to see the sewer authority is looking into it, and hopefully that money will be repaid. Next thing, let's see where the Chipak Funeral Home is for sale. And I wonder who's going to buy that. Because it's between two buildings that the University of Scranton owns. The university will probably buy it, but they'll probably keep it as a funeral home, and then they'll have a funeral there for the city when all the nonprofits buy up all the tax-paying properties. Because, again, you people seem not to do anything about the nonprofits. Lastly, I have a letter to the editor to read from Vince Morabito that I thought was pretty good last week. It says, Trump a whiffer. What's the difference between Los Angeles Angels slugger Albert Pujols, who recently joined the 3,000 Hit Club, and President Donald Trump, who recently joined the 3,000 Lies Club since the start of his presidency, according to a tally compiled by the Washington Post? One is very good at hitting screwballs, while the other is great at being one. One has hit a lot of fouls, while the other one simply is foul. One of them gets paid to go all the way around the bases. The other has to pay to do so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jess Sorrenti?
Good evening. My name is Jessica Sorrenti. I'm here representing the Scranton Public Library. As Joan mentioned, we do have our Swinging on Vine fundraiser coming up this Friday, May 25th from 5 to 8 p.m. It is also, sorry, I'm short. Is that better? Okay. It is also the celebration for the library's 125th anniversary. We first opened our doors on June 1st, 1893. And so we just figured what better way to celebrate the anniversary with our Swinging on Vine Block Party and just make it even bigger and better. So to do that, we are bringing in the new band. It is Picture Perfect and the Raging Hormones. They're an 11-piece band, so we're really excited to bring them in. They do everything from top 40 hits to your classic Sinatra, so we're really excited to bring them along. And as always, the food is always donated by many of our local restaurants, and the raffles are donated by many of our local businesses. So it is a community event, and we are very fortunate to have a lot of community members participate this way, and we've had more come out this year in celebration of the anniversary. And one of those most notable is we received a raffle for a car detail worth $499 from Zevarts on Mulberry Street. So we are really excited to raffle that off, and I know there are a lot of people who are interested in that one, so I had to throw that out there. You do not have to be at Swinging on Vine in order to win a raffle basket. You could just stop in at the library anytime between now and Friday and put a few tickets in. The tickets are $20 in advance, $25 at the door. The advance ticket sales end at Friday at 2 o'clock. But don't let that stop you. They are available online, albright.org, or as Joan mentioned, at our Scranton Public Library branches. And it is a 21 and over event because there is some cocktails there, and it's just a wonderful event, just kind of kickstart the summer and support the library at the same time. So I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. An excellent choice with Picture Perfect. They actually played at my wedding. They're one of the best local bands. So
Wonderful.
Great
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Next speaker is Bob Bolus.
Evening, Council. Bob Bolus, Scranton. It was nice to see the parade in Scranton. I did see Wayne there. How many other councilmen showed up there to honor our vets?
I was there. I didn't march in the parade. I was there, though.
You were there?
I was out of town. This is the first one I missed since being on council.
Mr. Gahan?
I was not there, no.
Okay. Mr. Perry? I was not there. Okay, thank you. I'm sure our vets appreciated what we do in the city. You know, the thing that's most discouraging and disappointing in this city is the foolishness. I just heard Mr. Perry say that let's put Mr. Benozzi back into the city. He's been here twice. Twice he didn't pay taxes. Yet you want to bring him back to our city and spit in the faces of our fire department, our police department, our DEP, and our other city employees who have been forced to move into this pit of taxation, hammered everywhere you could think of, between the school, the mismanagement, you name it, and we got it. This is a sore. This is a sore that's got to be drained. That you want to bring Benozzi back and give him another free ride. That is the most pathetic thing I've heard. He couldn't. He left here.
Disagree.
You could disagree, and that's
disagree.
what this forum's for. This is a forum for debate. That's why these forums were created way before our time, is to have debate between us and the people who presumably are in charge. He left here to go back into banking. He couldn't make it in the real world. He's coming back for another free ride. No taxes, nothing for us from him. He didn't create anything in this city. To the contrary, the city isn't golden. It's not debt-free. He didn't work a miracle. If he can't come back here and buy a house like everybody else has to, and live in this city like everybody else has to, and pay what we have to, maybe then he'll get off his butt and find the solutions we need. Other than that, let him stay the hell out of here and stay in the Abingtons and pay his taxes. There are thousands, millions of competent individuals around this country that'd be more than glad to come here and straighten this city out. He hasn't done it in the past. I'm not for a free ride from anybody. I don't give a damn who it is. If this is the case, then tell every one of our other employees, move out of here and go where you could survive than live in this city that's killing everybody. Just look at your tax bills, your school bills, and then say you want to give him a free ride? You want to hire people to tell us where the potholes are and ridiculous? We got how many employees driving around the city during the day? They have two-way radios, call in and say there's a pothole. There's one on East Mountain. There's one in front of the glorious mall on Lackawanna Avenue that doesn't pay us the fair tax, yet nobody will push to do a reassessment. Yet you want to bring another guy here for a free ride. That's not what this council should be doing. To the contrary, you should be doing the job that represents all of us. And no more free rides for the university, for the nonprofits. Start paying your fair share in this city. You want to sit on that pace. You want to sit up there. You took an oath to represent the people in this city. Then do that job. Don't pick one individual over 60 or 70,000 people. And that's the problem I have here. I don't feel like supporting another deadbeat in my city. Another deadbeat university, another deadbeat nonprofit that isn't giving us our fair share, that we have to be screwed over by everybody. That's what I'm here about. Do your job. Do what's right for the majority, not the minority of people. If you want to sit up here, that's what you came here for. The Sewer Authority, I filed against Jim Mulligan with the Sewer Authority, with the Attorney General's office, because he owes the money. And I'm asking you tonight, each and every one of you, are you going to join with the Scranton Sewer Authority with a letter? Mr. Gahan, you like writing letters in the council? A letter that you're going to join the Sewer Authority in getting our money back? Is anybody here going to do that? You're all on the spot. I'm putting you right on the spot tonight.
I'm going to address that under motions, Mr. Wallace.
Okay. That's why I brought that up. And, you know, the nurses, I spoke with the commissioners. They all pledged that the next time the nurses go on strike, they'll stand out there with them. Maybe that's something you guys should follow through. And I heard Les say something about Trump. Trump is a leader, plain and simple, and they should pay attention to what's going on in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you.
Mike and Libby Donahue.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's Mike and Libby Donahue. No relation to council. Just want to make. We come this evening to speak because we read in the local media that the council is considering a contractual relationship with the corporation C-Click Fix to offer services for location and elimination of non-emergency municipal defects like potholes and like graffiti. We come in support of that contract. We come in support of that request. We're familiar with C-Click Fix, and the basic concept is to involve the community. When they see a bad situation, a bad pothole or graffiti, see it, take a picture of it with your smartphone, and get it into the hands of the system so it can get to the Department of Public Works, and the situation will be corrected. I want you to know, full disclosure, we are not completely impartial. Our son Kevin, his first entry into the corporate world was to work as a relationship manager for C-Click Fix back around between 2010 and 2015. So I've had no relationship with them since then, and Kevin has moved on. But he was very proud of that relationship, and he thought that they did excellent work. The two things about it are it gets the community involved in solving this problem in an organized way, and secondly, it gets all the data and information to the Department of Public Works so they can approach it in an organized way. The more serious problems, the more long-lasting problems, separate them by location. It's more helpful and more organized and more beneficial to the city. And we brought some data. There's an announcement that C-Click Fix back in 2014 applied for an award, the Urban Ingenuity Award. It's a pretty major award sponsored by Citibank in New York and by the Financial Times to recognize corporations who, by doing their job, accomplish social good. And C-Click Fix was awarded the Urban Ingenuity Award for North America. So it would be and I congratulate council for forward thinking outside the box of the way we can approach this problem. And I hope when the vote comes that, I know you've heard, a majority of you gentlemen have heard a presentation from C-Click Fix just this evening, and I hope you come down their way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share a quick comment. Bill Gaughan and I have had conversations and emails, and it took a little time for us to get together we both agreed on the issue that I expressed, and I'm sure I'd get the same reaction from the other councilmen here. But this morning I had an episode with a neighbor, and I saw something and I texted. She texted back and I took care of it. It took 5 minutes. And that's the kind of thing that I think would happen with this software. And I sat in part of the presentation and watched how the map showed that like 5 or 6 or 7 people or 7 incidents happened in the same geographic area, and how people then got information right away about the resolution. And I think that would be really helpful for people who may not be able to come or may not be able to get in touch with you, or, it's a more efficient process and a very effective process. Absolutely. And I could see reactions from you that you were enthusiastic during the meeting, and I do think as a citizen it would be a very useful tool.
Thank you.
Just to add to your point too, Ms. Donahue, as I mentioned in the caucus, I think the police department is ahead of the curve technology-wise. And if you go on our city's website and look at the map that they have for police incidents, this would be somewhat similar. And I agree with everything you said. I think we're looking to streamline the process and use technology to do that. And I think it is only going to be beneficial for the taxpayers, and it's going to be much more transparent as well.
The other thing that I mentioned to Emil was that I think it would be good to go to the neighborhood associations if you decide to do this and encourage them to get people signed up, because it's a really easy app to use. I had it on my other phone. I don't have it on this one, but it is really simple.
Well, first, we have some lobbying to do with the administration, and then hopefully they'll buy into it, and if they do, we'll definitely do some outreach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ron Illman.
Well, good evening, Council, my friends. Like many, this is my city by choice. This is where I live, own a home, pay school and property taxes. I vote. And occasionally I come down here to try to show my support for the city and my interest in it. But David Bozzoni is none of these, nothing. And he just here for another gravy train ride. He had nothing to show the people of this city for 4 years up here, except some giveaways like downtown. I don't even know how you people can consider thinking about another cursed 4 years of this person. He just hasn't done a thing for the city. You know, I feel the same way about Gerald Cross. He's been here 20 years and there's no improvement. This is just senseless, you know. Right here, I know you had to see these foreclosures. I don't know, there's 600, 700. If you look at them closely, you see many of the same exact names and figures, give or take just a few dollars from last year and the year before. Why? Why are these people still on these lists year after year? Why doesn't somebody collect it or take their property away? And if you look again, the LLCs have put this city to sleep. Huge amounts of money, one after another over here. LLC, oh, this doesn't make any sense to taxpayers when all we talk about is raising taxes. Nobody tries to collect nothing. You're in the real estate business. I know you look. Did you see some of these names, Wayne?
They're tax claims. That's a tax claim sale. What you're referring to?
They're just totally, it's disgusting. Cedar Avenue, the jewel of the city. There must be 15 names, 20 names on here that owe big sums of money. No wonder they could improve their houses and bricks and everything else and paint. They don't pay no taxes like the rest of us. The neighborhoods are going to pot left and right, and all we hear about is hiring Bozzoni and Amoso, the man that gave $3 million to his employee and nobody said nothing. No conflict of interest there. Bozzoni with his idea $500,000 downtown, tax incentives. This is like a sanctuary city for tax cheats. That's what we're just becoming. It's just getting uncanny that all we hear about is tax raises and nothing. I still haven't seen no street sweeper on North Main Avenue. Last time I saw him was 8-10 years ago. The only thing I won't complain about is my garbage service. They come and do it, leave. They make a lot of noise, but I don't have no complaints. But here we are facing all this nonsense from a school board. You know, in Friday's paper, I believe, Keystone Resources in one sweep took $850,000 off our tax roll. I don't know how many houses, 3-4 houses, plus what they got all over the city. Why doesn't the school board do something about it? Why don't you do something? The mayor, somebody's got to stop this. It just can't go on. This is from 2015, 600-800 names. Think what else is, if you keep adding what's coming. Thank you, gentlemen. I know everything said here tonight by all these gentlemen and ladies, it just goes in one ear and out the other. Bozzoni will probably be back with his $100,000 a year job and not contribute one lousy thing to this city for the next 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. Just like to remind speakers to please be, or those in the audience to please be respectful to the speakers and not shout out. If you want to speak, you have the same opportunity as everyone else. Faye Franis?
Faye Franis. Well, what I am saying here is strictly my opinions. First of all, the quality of life. I understand that you have something like an app you put on your phone to call up if anybody is like high grass or something. I don't think that's right. I don't think people should be squealing on other people and causing problems in their neighborhoods. That's the worst thing you could do. That's your job. You hire people to do that. And are you going to have a warning before anybody gives a ticket, or is it up to the person that gives the ticket? Is that a law now? Did you pass it that you must give a warning first? That's the question.
That's why that legislation was tabled.
What?
That's why that legislation was tabled.
When is that going to come up?
We're going back and forth whether to pass it or to amend it. So right now, it's still a little bit of ways.
Well, I hope that there should be a warning, because it's not fair. People could be out of town, they could be in the hospital, they could be sick. So you shouldn't have people calling on other people. You have people that you hired for that. Now, as far as animal abuse, did you say something about a $150 fine for dangerous dogs? Something about that?
Everything on the quality of life ticket's already in effect. They just put it on the ticket, and that's where we're having a disagreement. We don't think some of these things should be on a ticket.
I can't hardly hear you, but I'm just saying about the $150. Is there a fine for a dangerous animal?
I'm not sure. That was on. I think that was on what we tabled. So we didn't.
When you get back to it.
Yeah.
Make sure there's no $150 fine for a dangerous animal. There are no dangerous animals. You go after the owners. Now, another thing I heard, the Humane Society said they weren't going to kill any more animals. Well, I understand they did. And something about they have a right to kill dogs that aren't obedient or something like that. Well, I know a guy that went out and got one of those dogs that they claimed wasn't obedient to save him, and now that dog is in a very happy home. So I would encourage people not to give any money to the Humane Society and donate all their money or any of their money to no-kill shelters. No way. The Humane Society should be called the kill shelter, it should be not the humane. Humane means humane. They are not humane. They're abusive. They're killing animals. Now, the Wyoming borough had auditors come in because in a couple months' time, they spent $130 from the sewer authority, money that's only supposed to be used for sewer authority maintenance and operations, and they put it into the general fund to pay their bills. Sound familiar? Garbage fee. All the money for the last 6 years or so went into the general fund. to pay regular bills when it's only supposed to be used for garbage-related issues. Now, this study that's been going on for over 2 years, who has this study, Mr. Evans? Who's doing this study?
The state hired a company to do the study.
Who's the company?
I have it, but I don't have the name with me. But it's.
Well, how about getting some information for me? I want to know where they are on this, and I want answers next time. And next week, there's no meeting. Isn't it strange how you can't have a meeting Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Too busy, huh? This is like the 6th or 7th meeting a year that you're skipping because you just don't want to come another night during the week. Very convenient. And as far as Mr. Perry, Mr. Rogan, Mr. Evans, if you go for this, this vote for this waiver for Mr. Bolzoni, you should never be getting elected again. You're here, Mr. Rogan, because you lied about the garbage fee. That's why you got elected by 53 votes. If the people knew that you voted for the garbage fee, you wouldn't be sitting here now. But you lied. So next election, I hope that the 3 of you aren't here, because you're only here for Bill Courtwright. You're only here to pass anything he wants. Bolzoni was getting $45,000, and Bill Courtwright gave him a $45,000 a year raise. A raise of $45,000. Now, this is the guy that got fired from Landmark Bank because he gave a loan to the city without council approval. And this is the same guy you want to keep. But you'll do anything the mayor wants you to do. So this is in court. So we see what happens, just like the garbage fee. And if the garbage fee, we win this and we have to get money back, all the people, what happens then? You raise the taxes and so the people have to pay for the money they're supposed to get back? Is that how that's going to work? You should seriously think of doing something about that, because if people get money back for this garbage fee, no way should taxes be raised to recoup that money, because why should we be paid the money back that we just got back? No. And I understand also that I heard Steamtown Mall is going to start closing at 7 o'clock at night. Bad enough they're charging people to park there. You're encouraging people to come downtown? Who would want to come downtown and shop when they're going to be closing at 7 o'clock and you have to pay to park? And you let this guy buy this place. You're driving people out of the city. So I don't know what else to say to you. I think you should never be hired again, the 3 of you. And you can't justify any reason for keeping this waiver. First of all, it's an illegal waiver. He was supposed to get the waiver before he got hired, not even know if the waiver is is legal rather. So this is one reason why you don't want people to be on record in your motions. You only speak in motions. Nothing we say is recorded because you don't want anybody to know what we said. This is why, because of all these people that spoke out against Bolzoni and every other thing that they say, you don't want people to know what we're saying. That's why there's no records of what we say anymore, because you don't want the people to know. So that's disgraceful too, but that's why you should never get elected again.
Thank you. And I won by 47 votes, not 53. So I won by 47 votes, not 53, so 46 to spare. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
My name is Brian. I like to say, wow, this is the first time I've ever been to a city council meeting, and I see a lot of stress out in the room. The story with me, I'm a single father. I moved to Scranton recently to be close to the hospitals because one of my children are sick. I come to find the city is plagued with slumlords. When I sit here and I listen to everybody talking about tax base, collecting, we need money, we do know this is what happens. Everybody does need this. I was in a dispute with my landlord over not fixing stuff. I was being strong-armed. Fortunately, I have the means to not have to put up with that, but a lot of other people don't. Basically, what entailed was I came down to the city of Scranton because you people have a registration process for landlords. My landlord claims he owns close to 200 units. Not one of them are registered. Not one of them. So I could not enter an escrow program to protect my own family. The escrow program was set up mostly to protect the city, but you can't do anything unless they register. No one registers. He has close to 200 apartments, supposedly. None of them are registered. I couldn't even imagine the tax base, the tax money that this costs the city. But what it does to society in itself is it lets these slumlords just run rampant. I mean, just go down Irvin Street. What's the next one over? You know where I'm talking about. You get close to the university, you get close to the hospital, you're down in the bottom of the hill, and you know, as they say about everything runs downhill. Well, I just can't understand how the city can say they have a registration process, but nobody enforces it, nobody collects the money, nobody watches out for the citizens. And I'm talking about someone called, and I'm sure you heard of him, Ken Bond, if you ever heard of that name, Ken Bond, PSN Realty. I think in 2017, the newspaper wrote something that he had the most amount of tax liens out of any, or things up for tax sale out of anybody else. I apologize not for being prepared tonight. I just got done with my landlord who broke into the apartment on several occasions. The magistrate sided with me, even though he's an attorney from Rockefeller Center, New York. Why? Because he has just a total disregard for our city. He does not really live here. He just rapes and pillages our city. I would love to buy a house in Scranton. I moved from Lake Wallenpaupack to be closer to the hospitals because of medical problems with my daughter. My kids look at me and say, Dad, why don't you just buy a house? What if I bought a house, 3 houses down, some old lady was living in it, unfortunately passed away, didn't have no relatives, and Ken Bond bought something on my street? What would that do to my property values? People like this just abuse the system. I will come back every council meeting because I'm one of those stubborn kind of guys until this is resolved. I'm already out of there, so it's nothing, you know, no skin off my back that way. Also, by professional, I'm a building analyst professional. I'm certified. Just the code violations alone. You can walk right upstairs where the building inspectors are. I think this is a right to know form of information I needed for court and stuff. 5-day response, 5/11/2018. Still haven't got my response. I did get other responses to other things I asked for, but I'm also a business owner. Do I do business in Scranton? No. Why? Because of people like Ken Bond. You don't get paid. No one gets paid. Why do we tolerate this? Why don't we collect these registration fees? I mean, literally, I walk from one side of the hallway to the other to tell these people that they're not doing this and they're not doing this. We can't help you because we don't know. You have to find that out on yourself. So I do, but yet, has anybody done anything? Well, I'm standing here tonight saying, I'll be here for at least another 100 meetings until it's resolved. Hopefully it's before that. Monday nights are always available for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Norma Jeffries, city resident. And I guess I have a couple things that are on my mind as I was sitting listening to people. And it's good to see the students to come out and see how government works, whether they think it's good or bad. This is our government. And we do have a ruling body that is here to guide us through different things. One of the things that really caught my ear was this click, quick fix. That's the first I've heard of it. I've been out of town, so I guess I missed the article that was in the paper. But I will be Googling it to see how it's going to benefit us in the city. Are there really other cities that are using it? I don't understand how we could click fix and send a picture and that it will be fixed in 7 days. When I live in the Hill section, and poor Prescott Avenue is just falling completely apart.
Well,
and I know,
it tracks
Mr. Rogan, you said you didn't want us to say anything about the roads and everything, but it's awful. And they were at the Hill section meeting. The water department and the gas company, they explained to us what they were going to be doing and that they were going to be fixing those streets. Well, to me, they've gotten worse. We do have a meeting this coming, I think it's Wednesday, another Hill Section meeting. I'm not sure who's going to be there, but I'll be there, you know, just to hear what are they going to do about those streets there. And they did pave Pine Street, so I go down Pine Street, it's wonderful. So just a tip of the iceberg, I guess, as to what the streets are going to be like once they get finished doing whatever it is. I think they're, I don't know, something with the gas line. And then it was the water. They had to run the new water line into the house. And it's just a complete battle zone, if anyone has gone up Prescott Avenue. Also, on a private note and a personal note, you know, as I mentioned a few months ago, that my preemie grandbaby was born at 2.2 pounds, is now 6 pounds, and is coming home, and 100 days in the hospital. Thank God my son has insurance. He only has to pay 10% of the bill, which is a lot. So to anyone out there who faces a preemie situation, there is hope. Those doctors and the nurses, I supported the nurses when they were on strike. They're not around here. They're down at Lackawanna Hospital outside of Philly. But they were absolutely terrific with my grandson. So he's coming home. I can't wait to hold him and to see his face. He looks just like my son, but of course every grandmother says that, you know. But just wanted to give you that little update because I did mention it before.
Right. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. And,
So you know, too, before you leave, C-Click Fix is in 320 different municipalities. 320.
Okay.
So.
I'll be Googling it just to see.
All right. Yeah,
what
please
their
do.
thoughts
It's very interesting. Please
okay.
do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I was going to start with street sweeping, but since Mr. Gahn left, I'll hold that until he comes back. I just want to say I was pleased to see today on the city's website the announcements for the summer concerts that are sponsored and paid for by the city. The only thing that was disappointing is that as long as I've been back in town, Jimmy Sturr has done a marvelous 4th of July concert. And I was here last year and I almost had to leave. The audience was so pitifully small, where before you had to get there really early because there was no publicity. So I'm glad to see they have changed their ways and that it's being advertised. Moving on, my 2 cents on Mr. Bolzoni's issue is what bothers me more than anything. I certainly think Mr. Bolzoni's competent, but again, it's your disregard for the code. Once again, you put the cart before the horse. What the code says, the waivers should have occurred before he was hired, and if the Times Tribune was right, and I believe that it is, Mr. Bolzoni reported for work on the 7th of May, and here you are on the 21st putting it on the agenda. You people, what you need to do is just do away with that code. Wipe it out. You don't pay any attention to it. So why don't you have the courage to just do away with it? And you all, I'm sure, looked at your controller's report. When I went back to the budget, I was surprised to see a payment under the Human Resources Department for liability and casualty insurance of $32,000 paid to ABM parking services. And I don't understand why we are paying any, I would assume, premiums for ABM. So I would like one of you to explain that to me. And then the other thing I would like, I know you're all proponents for transparency. The budget last year on this particular line item noted that the budget for 2018 insurance increased by 23.6% due to organic growth in the city property and casualty insurance, and the settlements associated, this is the key one, and the settlements associated with the law office activity. Now, thanks to Jones pursuing the property value that we've insured, that's a small component of the increase. So I would like a listing of the settlements associated with the law office activity that make up the majority of that 25% increase. That is a big budget item. It's $1,371,000. It's not pocket change, so I look forward to receiving that. Now that Mr. Gaughan's back, I'll go back to the street sweeping. I thought you had announced that it was going to be reversed. What was last year would be first this year.
Yeah, that's what we were told. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that means those of us who are stuck in the middle will be in the same spot all the time. Now, last year we were scheduled, and keep in mind that we have a lot of gravel put down because it's top of East Mountain. We've got a lot of inclines. And we've got a lot of water drainage that needs to be taken care of that ices up our roads. So I think we need to do something more. I think the department needs to keep track of where they put the most gravel and treatment, and then go there first, because that's the stuff, gentlemen, once again, that's going into our stormwater system. And every other year I've cleaned mine up, 194 feet of it, but not this year. You know, I've had respiratory issues, and I don't intend to inhale that dirt anymore. I have a lot more. I will be back next week, good Lord willing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry, do you have any motions or comments?
I'm going to save all my comments for agenda items tonight.
Mr. Donahue, any motions or comments?
Yes, just to comment quickly on our caucus with See-Click Fix-It. I think it's a great concept, and I don't think it's a matter of if, it's how we're going to go about doing that. A couple weeks ago, I asked for an update on Crowley Park, and I received back some updates. Some sinkholes were identified in the parking lot that the city engineer is going to review. A meeting took place with the Conservation District, and they're going to have to get permits from them. The whole design stayed the same. There's going to be improvements to the area around the play equipment. Trees are being saved along the walkway. A lot of the asphalt is going. Stormwater is being looked at, and a rain garden is being constructed in the area where water pools. And then on the issue with the residency waiver for Mr. Bolzoni, this is one of those issues where I tend to understand and agree with the arguments on both sides. So tonight I'm going to vote to introduce it, but at this point I can't see myself voting for final passage. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, any motions or comments?
Thank you. Just a few. Earlier this evening, we had our caucus, and we participated in a PowerPoint presentation on See-Click Fix. So for those who didn't recall my comments last time on the issue, it's basically a request and work management tool that empowers and engages citizens by giving them the ability to report quality of life issues through an app on their phone. It also allows the city to be more responsive, transparent, and efficient in handling those requests, all the while keeping the citizen informed of the status of their complaint along the way. It also provides analytics that will allow the administration and city council to more closely monitor the success of those items and clearing them along the way. Efficient, engaged, and transparent government is something we should all strive for, and we should never shy away from it. So I think See-Click Fix can be an integral component in that endeavor, and I solely endorse that fully, because it's something that I think we definitely need, and efficient government is always a good thing. I attended several community events since the last city council meeting. Last Tuesday, I attended along with several of my council colleagues the annual police memorial service to remember their fallen officers. As usual, it was a beautiful and solemn service that continues to remind us all of the dangers of being a police officer. They put their lives on the line every day for us, and that should never be taken for granted. This was my 4th year attending the ceremony, and I always find it to be inspirational, simple, and an effective message, and as well as the musical message, again, reinforced by the talented chorus from Scranton High School. On Thursday, I attended the 25th anniversary celebration of Scranton Tomorrow, and as well as I'm very proud to have been part of Scranton Tomorrow from its infancy. I was there in the very beginning when they had the Forging the Future plan that became the blueprint for Scranton Tomorrow 25 years ago. So I'm happy to be able to be part of that and part of the participation in the celebration, as well as the new role in the new Scranton Tomorrow and its vision for the next 25 years, as they move forward being the lead on the creation of a downtown business improvement district, which is something I have been advocating for decades. So congratulations to Scranton Tomorrow on their 25th anniversary, and to Leslie Collins and the many volunteers involved over the years. Thank you for all you have done for downtown Scranton and all that you will be doing in the years to come. And on Saturday, I attended and walked in the Armed Services Parade. It was and has been an honor for me the past several years to be part of this event. It was certainly a very small sacrifice on my part to walk the parade route in Saturday's rain, especially considering all that our current and past armed services and forces have done for us. It always says a lot about who we are as a city and a community, and how we honor our veterans as well as our active duty military. And finally, on a totally separate note, I took a walk on Sunday morning in downtown and stopped to see, for the first time, Renaissance Park, which is the elevated park along Bogart Court in the 500 block of Lackawanna Avenue. So I would urge anyone who has the time while they're downtown to stop and check it out. And it's a very unique and very interesting urban park within our city, and a great place to catch some interesting views, as well as a place to relax for a nice break while you're downtown on several of the benches that are located there. So it's another asset that we have downtown that I think a lot of people haven't had a chance to take a look at and check out. So otherwise, all my comments on agenda items will be at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Gahn, any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. Quite a few. First of all, I usually don't respond to nonsense at these meetings, but I would like to say one thing about the Armed Services Parade. I have marched in that parade since I've been a councilman. I've attended it before I was a councilman. I was not at the most recent parade this weekend because of some family issues. My wife had surgery. She's fine, and we had a death in the family. So when Mr. Bolus gets up and makes some kind of nonsensical remark about not supporting the veterans because we don't attend a parade, that is just nonsense. My father's a United States Marine. Both of my grandparents were, both of my grandpas were in the military. Almost all of my uncles were in the military. So just because you don't attend a parade does not mean that you don't support veterans. So just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that, and I'm sure you already did. On the caucus that we had with See Click Fix, I would agree with Councilman Evans and the rest of my colleagues. I think that one of the biggest complaints that I've gotten in the last 4.5 years being a councilman is that someone calls City Hall and they make a complaint, and then that's the last they ever hear, usually, from anybody involved in city government. So whether or not their problem gets fixed, either they're not sure or they have to call back, or when they do call back, they get told to call the sewer authority, or, well, now Pennsylvania American Water, licensing and inspections, and they get bounced around all over the place. This software will allow city government to organize all of these requests. It's going to streamline everything, and it's going to make it more transparent, in my opinion. And obviously, from the caucus that we had earlier tonight, it has worked in, I believe, 320 other cities, larger and smaller than the city of Scranton. Somebody mentioned tonight, why pay for a service like this? And I think the woman that gave the presentation mentioned that it was $16,000. Well, why would you pay for it? Well, why not? At this point, what we've been doing obviously has not worked based on the volume of complaints that we all have gotten. So if something hasn't been working, then why would you continue to do it, for the next several years? Why not change it? And that's really the mentality in this building, not just in this administration, but in prior administrations, that this is the way we've always done it. We're afraid of change. There's no buy-in. Let's just stick with what we know. I think that we should, if the table's not set in your favor, flip the table over and try something different. And I think this is going to accomplish that. So I'm supporting it 100%. I hope we meet with the administration soon and we get the ball rolling here. On a more somber note, I'd like to ask everyone to keep my wife's family in their prayers. We lost my wife's grandmother, Mary McLean, from North Scranton. She passed away this morning. She was a lifelong Scranton resident, active in politics in the city for her entire life. She was a staple in Ward 1, Precinct 1, Bangor Heights, never missed an election working the polls. She was one of my biggest supporters. When I campaigned the first time around, as I was making my way throughout the city, I stopped at Park Gardens, knocked on somebody's door. I went to introduce myself, and they told me Mary McLean had already called. In fact, she called 3 times, and if she called again, they weren't going to vote for me. So, and that went on all around North Scranton and all around the city. She is going to be dearly missed. She was a class act, one of those members of the greatest generation, and my prayers are with my wife's family at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a couple comments. I echo the comments of my colleagues regarding the C-Fix Click presentation. It does seem like a very good way to bridge the gap between those in the community when they see a problem and those in the city that are in charge of fixing those problems. I do think, especially with the vast majority of people have a smartphone or have access to somebody who does, it's very easy to just take a picture of a pothole or a problem in your neighborhood and send it into the right person. So it does sound like a very good idea. The cost does seem a little high to me, so that hopefully that's something we could work on negotiating down with the vendor. But it is an idea, I think, that really can help our city quite a bit. This has been brought up a number of times, so I'm going to address it. Regarding the illegal health care at the Sewer Authority of Jim Mulligan, I agree with the Sewer Authority and their request to recoup those funds. I would hope the school board would do the same thing regarding the illegal health care benefits that have been rendered over there. And I think that it would make sense for the Sewer Authority to look at other solicitors that may have received the same illegal health care benefit. So I do commend them for taking this action, and I know Mr. Bolus brought it up, but it was a motion by this council that initiated this process by sending it to the Attorney General's office for review. They came back with their opinion that it was a civil matter, and then it'll be up to the Sewer Authority to file suit against Mr. Mulligan or anyone else that has received the legal benefits. Mr. Evans brought up the police memorial. Again, a very moving ceremony, as he mentioned. Again, I can't say enough how great of a police department we have in the city, and to thank our police officers locally and nationally for all they do to keep us safe. Regarding the Bolzoni appointment, I think one of the speakers, Mr. Spindler, hit the nail on the head with this one. This is not something that is new, despite what some people want to say. The proper process is being followed when there is an employee that a mayor wants to appoint who lives outside of the city. The proper procedure is to send legislation to council for a waiver. And then council has a choice of voting up or down, which we will do this week and next week. In the past, it was done once previously where a director was given a waiver without going to city council. If that was the case, it would not be appropriate. That would be circumventing the rules. So council members can vote as they wish, how they feel on this waiver. Personally, I've been on council almost 10 years now, and Mr. Bolzoni is by far the best business administrator that we have ever had. Do I wish that he would move into the city? Of course. Do I think it's fair that he lives outside of the city and the rest of the city employees do not? No, I don't think it's fair. But I think in the best interest of the city to have a competent business administrator who knows what they're doing and will do a good job for the city, I think having him as business administrator is the right move. And that is all.
5B for introduction and ordinance creating and establishing special city account number is noted entitled NCSX for the receipt of grant funds from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency National Crime Statistics Exchange Program.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction of resolution appointment of David Bolzoni, 2187 Port Royal Road, Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, 18411, to the position of Business Administrator effective May 7, 2018. Mr. Bolzoni will be replacing Rebecca McMullen, who was serving as acting Business Administrator.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to waive the residency requirements for David Bolzoni, City of Scranton Business Administrator.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
Yes, on the question. I know I spoke briefly on this during participation, but as far as I'm concerned, Dave Bolzoni has been fantastic business administrator for the city of Scranton. He has seen us through some very difficult times. I thought he did it with just the best communication skills that I think I've ever seen. And without pulling any punches, our business administration hasn't been the same since he's left. Through no fault of anybody's, no one has reached, in my opinion, the standard that Dave set for a BA in the city of Scranton. He does live outside the city. I think I'm with everybody. I wish he did live in the city of Scranton. But Section 6.6 is put there to make sure we have the best to serve the city and the citizens of Scranton. If there was somebody that was going to take the job, they would have already taken it when Dave left the first time. But we put that job out for a while, and you know, we weren't getting blown in by applications or applicants. So, in my opinion, this is exactly what Section 6.6 is made for, to make sure the city has the best person available for the job. And that's my opinion on that.
anyone else? All those in favor?
Sorry, wait, I didn't know if Wayne was going. Sure. I'm going to be voting against this waivers for several reasons, and let me preface my comments by saying that I believe Mr. Bolzoni, as I mentioned earlier in this meeting, does an admirable job as our business administrator. This isn't about his job performance. It's not about who's best. This is a matter, in my opinion, of principle. The public rightly expects that city employees, in this specific case, pulling down $90,000 a year, which is more than most people in the city of Scranton make in 2 or 3 years combined, the public expects that that person face the same school and city property taxes, garbage fee, sewer bills, and everything else that comes along with living in the city of Scranton. This is only possible if the business administrator lives within the city. If we're going to invest in Mr. Bolzoni, then I think it's only fair that he invest in the city and live here. Remember, Mr. Bolzoni was part of the mayor's first cabinet back in 2014. He had 6 months to move in the city, and he did not, even though he said he would move to Scranton. At that point, my colleagues granted Mr. Bolzoni an indefinite waiver. He ended up leaving at that point a few years later for a banking job, and then now decides to come back. I would argue to my colleagues that Mr. Bolzoni no longer deserves the waiver. He is choosing this job. Therefore, he chooses the consequences, and one of those is that you have to live in the city. These are the terms of employment. Every fireman, every policeman, every DPW worker, every clerical worker has to live in the city, has to pay property taxes, school and city. And as somebody mentioned tonight, they're a burden, especially for our senior citizens. So what kind of message is this council and this mayor sending to city employees, to our community, to our business community, that one of our highest paid employees and one who makes crucial decisions that affect every taxpayer in the city isn't willing to invest, isn't willing to live in the city of Scranton? I would urge my colleagues to vote against this waiver. The mayor sending us this waiver once again and allowing Mr. Bolzoni to live in Newton Township and outside of the city is unfair to every single taxpayer in the city of Scranton. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, on the question. You'll be clapping after this, I'm sure. There are times when I might not have supported the granting of a residency waiver. This is not one of them. Although in all honesty, I'm not quite sure it is not a practice as it relates to cabinet appointments whose time has not passed. We have seen firsthand over the past 4 years the level of performance by Mr. Bolzoni. When you have someone who is clearly an exceptional business administrator, when you have someone who has helped lead this city out of decades of financial quagmire that we were in, who has proven to be a solid partner in many of the initiatives of this city council, like Granicus, Smart Cities, the grant program for first-time home buyers, the reduction in the real estate transfer tax, the garbage fee discount, and others. When you have someone like that, you know at the end of the day, it's in the best interest of the city of Scranton, its taxpayers, its citizens, to have him back as business administrator. The answer is easy for me. We should always have a fiduciary responsibility to effect positive change when we can. That is why I'm voting yes for this waiver. We should have the best possible people working at the cabinet level that we could find, so we can become a city that people want to move to voluntarily, not be forced to. So I'll be voting yes to move this legislation along.
I just want to make just one comment. I also agree that we need the best possible people, but it goes without saying that the message that's being sent here to the community is that Mr. Bolzoni came once for a waiver, and he got it. He left, he went to a banking job, then he came back to the city, he's asking for another waiver. He also got a raise to $90,000 a year. You know, that's great, but he lives in Newton Township. He needs to invest in the city and live here. He's making decisions, crucial decisions, possibly on raising property taxes, fees, decisions that affect the lives of every single person in this city. So when I look at the elderly woman on my street who pays $4,000 or $5,000 in property taxes and is up to here in her fees and everything else, and one of the highest paid employees in this building doesn't live here, it sends the wrong message. I am not questioning Mr. Bolzoni's professionalism or his capabilities as a business administrator, and I told him this 4 years ago when I voted against the waiver the first time. This is a matter of fairness. This is the principle of the whole argument. Thank you.
On the question, I'm not going to get into a debate about this issue. My point is simply, I want the best of the best, period. And if it takes granting a waiver, then I'll accept that responsibility.
I would agree with Councilman Evans, and to Councilman Gaughan's point, I understand that what he's saying sounds good, and as I agree that as a matter of fairness, he may be right, but I would much rather a competent business administrator that's going to make good, sound decisions for the city, regardless of where they live, than have an incompetent business administrator who lives in the city of Scranton. As was mentioned by my colleagues, Mr. Bolzoni does an excellent job. I don't think there's many people that could disagree. When I heard he was coming back to work for the city, I was thrilled. In my time on council, I've probably worked with close to half a dozen different business administrators, and it's not even close that Dave Bolzoni is head and shoulders above the rest. So I am glad that he's back, and I hope he will continue the good work that he put in over the first couple of years that he was here. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution number 38, 2018, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into a loan-to-grant agreement and make a loan grant from the City of Scranton Business and Industry Loan Grant Program for project number as noted in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to Discovery Multiple Intelligences Preschool to assist an eligible project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I will be voting yes, of course, on this, and I'd like to congratulate the owners of the Discovery Preschool for being part of our city. And well, I'm very happy that this grant is moving forward so they can continue to expand their great work.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Meeting adjourned.